weekdays at 12:05 p.m. Do well to join the conversation by contributing or reacting to the big question. Call us on 07000 or send a text or WhatsApp message on 0703 175 6537. You can also send your contributions to our social media platforms Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube at WFM917 or log on to our website www.wfm917.com. Today, on the big question, we will be discussing on breaking the silence on mental wellness in today's world. And of course, we will be engaging guests with us. Of course, we know that May is a month dedicated to mental health awareness. And since its inception in 1949, Mental Health Awareness Month, May, has been a cornerstone of addressing the challenges faced by millions living with mental health conditions. In today's fast paced world, where the pressures of everyday life can often feel overwhelming, the importance of mental wellness cannot be overstated. Yet, for far too long, mental health has been shrouded in stigma and silence. It's time to break that silence and shine a light on the importance of mental health wellness in our communities, workplaces, and beyond. So, join us as we explore the journey of becoming a voice for mental health, debunking the misconceptions, identifying triggers, promoting open conversations, prioritizing well being, and advocating for accessible health and care. And to this end, I will be discussing breaking the silence on mental wellness in today's world with Udema Bong Akpan, who is a school and mental health counselor. Good afternoon, Udema Bong. Glad to have you. Good afternoon, Udema Bong. All right, we're trying to establish contact with Udeme right now, but don't worry, we'll get back into the conversation. Of course, like we highlighted, um, you know, May is a month dedicated to mental health awareness. And it is also a month where, we get to have these conversations over and across board. And right here on the big question, we will be having this conversation with Udemobong Akban, who is a school and mental health counselor. We will be looking at different sides to the conversation this afternoon, looking at stigma. What role does stigma play in affecting people and how they actually deal with mental health? What are also the complications as well? What are the misconceptions as well? Because there are people who do not readily believe that they have mental health issues. There are people who do not even think that these sort of things exist, and that is a problem. So we get to talk about that right here as well with our guests. So, well, away from that, we also look at how one can actually seek help when you're having mental health issues, when you feel like the way you're acting is really not who you are. It's a problem, and you really want to seek help. One way that you can actually do this is by ensuring that you're speaking to the right people. But how exactly do you know the right people you're supposed to speak to, so you are not termed as someone who is having a problem, who is problematic, or who is going through one issue or the other, or being tagged by several names? So that is part of what we're going to be having today on the big question. Some of the conversations that we'll be covering as well as what you can do, to support and also advocate for mental health, education in schools and also in workplaces, what policies you believe are necessary. All of these conversations are things that we will be able to have so that we can ensure that we dissect this particular conversation with our guests this morning. And yes, we know that there are different cases where people do not understand that they've got mental health issues. Yeah, maybe because you've always grown up and you felt to yourself, this is really not an issue. Like, this is how I am. Maybe how you are really is not really how you are. That's very interesting, actually. It might really not be how you are. It might be a combination of different areas, different parts of your life, and all of these things put together have made up exactly how you are right now. So some of these things are things that we will be addressing right here. And of course, the totality of mental health includes your emotional, your psychological, as well as your social well-being. Your mental, emotional, and psychological well-being. Your mental health indeed encompasses how you think, how you feel, how you act, how you handle stress, how you relate with others, and how you make your decisions as well. So these are the areas that mental health covers. Good afternoon, Udemebon. Glad to have you.
Good afternoon, Miracle. Thank you
Mm.
so much. It's my pleasure to be here. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Mm.
Okay, thank you.
All right. It's glad to have you today. Just as we said, we are talking about breaking the silence on mental wellness in today's world. Now, for you, what exactly has inspired you to become a voice for mental health wellness, and how has your journey been so far?
Inspiration story or anything like that. So I started out as a profession regularly, and
Okay.
then along the way, I got to find out that not many people had the help they needed.
Mm,
So I think it was the shortage of help to people that actually made me step up and
mm,
decide to do it more intentionally. And the journey has been lovely. Waking up every day and there's somebody to help,
mm,
and you know quite well that you can help this person.
mm,
You offer the help, offer as much support as you can, and at the end of the day, you are getting feedback. Oh, that I'm getting better. I'm managing my life in a more efficient way. So
mm-hmm.
that's all the inspiration that I need to work daily.
Thank you very much, Udemebong. Really, that is, I think it's a driving force that is really important in today's world. I mean, having people like you helps our world to become a better place, because not everyone can actually become a mental health advocate, but definitely we can have the voices that matter speaking about it and educating each and every one of us. And that's why we're having this conversation on Women Radio. Now, what are some of the
Sure.
biggest misconceptions surrounding mental health that you have observed?
Okay, so there are quite a few of them, and I just like to start with the basic one.
Mm,
And when people talk about mental health, sometimes they just automatically in their head switch it the other way and think if you wish somebody you know that mental, you're saying to the person, hey, you need a second. That's a perception. But people don't realize that when we talk about mental health, we are simply talking the entirety of how you think, how you feel, and eventually how you behave.
mm,
That mental is an aspect of mental health, just like we talk about good physical health and then bad physical health.
mm,
It's the same thing with mental health. So at the site or at the hearing of mental health, the first thing that comes to your mind should not be mental illness. Mental illness is very different from mental health.
mm,
So I think we can all clear it. Second misconception, somebody once somebody have a mental health situation, you think the person can easily snap out of it. People don't snap out of mental health issues that somebody can be depressed and the medicine says snap out of it or eat food and you'll be fine. It
mm.
doesn't always sometimes it's
All
because
right, Udema Bong, would like to pause with you for a moment. We're having difficulties hearing you clearly. And we're trying to
oh
resolve that from
good.
our end. So we were actually able to get you from a point where you made mention of the fact that mental health is not necessarily about going to visit the psychiatric hospital, which is something that people often
Absolutely.
believe. When you say it's mental health, that means the person is running mad. And also I think
Absolutely.
that was one thing I was able to pick. Another thing was you said that it's not something you can just snap out from. You can just eat and just
Right.
sleep and wake up and the next day you are okay. So we're still listening to
Right.
you.
Okay, so I think you got me perfectly.
Mm,
Additionally, I was saying that sometimes these issues can be complex, so
okay.
it would require professional support. You don't just snap out of it,
Mm,
except that person was just momentarily in the blues, and then you can say, okay, if you take away the trigger, the person would be fine. But
Mm.
otherwise, the person will not necessarily snap out of it. So there's this other misconception that I'd like to point out, because this is a radio for women.
Mm.
But when women have PPD, postpartum depression, we
Mm.
say they are mad or we say they
Mm.
are evil. We do not, give credence to the fact that they actually need professional intervention. So,
Mm.
what's postpartum depression? Just a depression that comes after a woman gives birth. We hear stories of when maybe a woman gives birth, for instance, and the next thing the woman does not want to see the baby.
Mm.
And more unfortunately, growing situations, the woman tries to stab the baby or something.
Mm.
And, in our can, we just say that this woman is evil or she's a witch or something like
Mm.
that. It's a misconception. Most times, those things can be clinically diagnosed. It's just PPD, postpartum depression. So,
Okay.
this is another big misconception that women generally have to be aware of. I
Mm.
just needed to bring that out. If they're listening in on us, they can easily pinpoint
Mm.
if they see these things.
Thank you very much, Udemebong. I really love that you were able to pick on, these things, and I'm able to relate that as well as, the listeners. Now, how can individuals identify when they have mental health issues and what are the possible triggers?
Okay.
You cited the woman also there. Most women do not know when they
Right.
actually are experiencing this phase. So, how do they even know they have a mental health issue and what are the possible triggers?
Okay, so identifying when you have a mental health situation is quite easy. Basically, you'll be
Mm.
struggling to function on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to wake up, you are struggling to get up, you do not have motivation to do anything.
Mm.
If you go on social media, there are days you see somebody say something like, "Oh, please, can somebody drop a word of motivation for me? I feel like I can't feel myself."
Mm.
That's just a sign that there's something going on with your mental health. So the moment you are struggling to maintain your daily routines, struggling to go to job, struggling to carry out your business, if you're a student, you're struggling to, study, you're struggling to even maintain relationships. There are times that you just want to shut off from the rest of the world.
Mm.
It simply means that there's something going on with your mental health. And then again, what's another sign that you can identify? If you notice that for a number of times you're consistently having negative thought patterns,
Mm.
everything around you is negative. The things you are thinking of are negative,
Okay.
and in the long run, you start to give out so much negative self-talks. It simply means that there's something going on with you.
Mm.
And from the thought patterns, it also translates to persistent negative feelings. You are constantly sad, you're irritable, you might be anxious over nothing,
Mm.
you just stay angry, or you are hopeless, and these feelings last for a number of weeks or months. Once you feel these things or think about things more negatively than you would like to, please just know that there's something going on with your mental health that you need to identify. Sometimes it could be changes in your behavior.
Mm.
You are, as I said, social isolation.
Okay.
For maybe, let's take for instance somebody that loved to party, and then all of a sudden, not that the person just made up his or her mind to stop partying. The person just does not feel the vibe anymore, doesn't even want to see somebody. But there's a change in your pattern of sleep or appetite. For some people, it could be the sudden desire to for all of these things just show that there's a problem with the mental health.
Mm.
So you mentioned triggers.
Mm.
How can this thing be triggered? Generally, life events. For some people, it could be that they've been through a traumatic situation and they don't know how to cope with it. For some people, it could be grief, loss, the loss of a loved one,
Okay.
and they are trying to grieve with it. For others, this might be funny, but for others, it could be relationship issues. Most times, romantic relationship,
Mm.
and this person just does not know how to go about it. For others, more intense life situations, loss of job, change of job, or even in the Japa wave.
Mm.
For some people, migration can pose a very big mental health issues because they are trying to adapt. they are trying to form new relationships.
Mm.
So these things come in, trigger all of these.
Mm.
For some other people, it could be developmental changes, puberty for young people,
Okay.
menopause for older people, people that are grappling with aging, childbirth for both men and women.
Mm.
There are men that have mental health issues just because, their wife just gave birth and they're trying to come to terms with the fact that, oh, I have a child now. It
Mm.
could trigger any of these situations. For others too, it could be marriage. Some time ago, I saw on Twitter and somebody said, "Oh, I've been married for 2 weeks now. I don't know what to do with my life." And then was asking others, "So how do I navigate this phase?"
Mm.
So whereas it should be a very happy thing, there are others who, even in that happiness, they just feel that they've lost themselves.
All
So
right.
that's a trigger to. It could be divorce. Oh, this is a big factor. This is a big factor. Separation and divorce. It could be a trigger also, and then let me just take the last now. It could be substance abuse,
Mm.
alcohol abuse,
Mm.
drug abuse, or misuse. All of these things are triggers to possible mental health issues.
Thank you very much, Udemilbong. Really, you just spread the, I would say, opened up the umbrella of the conversation. Now, what do you believe, could prevent individuals from seeking help from their mental health struggles? Because I know that there are people who would say, I relate with what you've said, but
Mm.
getting help seems to be something far-fetched. And now in a world where sometimes we can get so overly religious and try to pray away everything, and you're like, but afraid about it. We hear cases of people, parents taking their children to go see a pastor or some religious leader to pray, or a woman complaining to a pastor, saying certain things about how she does not understand how she's behaving, and people have complained about it and it's still reoccurring. And then we get to have people who say, since I cannot change, let me just kill myself. Those sort of cases. Now, what do you believe prevents individuals from really seeking help for their mental health struggles?
Okay, at some point I completely lost out on what you were saying, but if I can take
Okay.
my mind back to the first thing you asked, were you asking
Yes.
about the thing that stops people from seeking help?
Yes, please. Hi, Udeme, are you there with us? All right. So, Udeme, may I know if you can hear us loud and clear?
Hello, Miracle, are you
Yes.
with me? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes, we can hear you loud and clear now.
Okay, so I was asking for your question. I didn't quite
Yes.
get the question.
What I said was, what do you think prevents individuals from seeking help for their mental health struggles?
Okay, so what stops people? For those of us down here, in our environment, the
Mm.
basic thing is stigma, is shame,
Okay.
because we already think that, oh, once I open up to somebody, there's a likelihood that I will be judged.
Mm.
There's a likelihood that I will be labeled. So, for instance, think of like the PPAD are used for women now. A
Mm.
woman already knows that, okay, I've given birth, but I'm not happy about this new baby.
Okay. Hello, Udeme. Can you hear me? Udeme Bong. All right. We're struggling to hear from your end, but while we're still trying to make this connection, if you've just joined in, this is Women Radio 91.7, and it is the big question. We've been discussing breaking the silence on mental wellness in today's world, and it has been an incisive
Assume
conversation
that
so
I
much.
should be happy about my new baby. But I
Okay.
find that something is happening. I just wish I didn't have the baby. So the person would likely
Hi, Udeme. May I know if you're still there with us? May I know if you can hear us loud and clear?
get a potential uh, come out with this story, talk about whatever is going with you. You know, the next Explain this.
Okay, so we'll try to reconnect with Udeme and ensure that we get back on the call for the conversation because we're having a hard time getting to hear her clearly. Hello, Udeme. Can you hear us loud and clear, please?
Yes, I can. Miracle.
Okay,
Can you hear me
yes,
too?
yes, we can hear you. At some point, we lost connection with you.
Okay.
Okay, so you
Okay.
were
I'm
talking
wondering where we
about,
stopped.
yeah, we were talking about the woman, how she gets to be pregnant, having the child, and then she feels like she's not happy about it.
Okay. So I was talking about attitudes or things that make people not seek help, and
Mm,
I was trying to point out stigma and shame. That when people think about being labeled or
mm,
being judged, they'll be forced to not talk about their mental health issues.
mm,
And I went on to talk about lack of awareness. There are
mm,
people in rural settings who have no idea
mm,
of mental health discussions. It's not everybody that has an idea of these things we are talking about. So lack of awareness too can be a factor, can actually hinder people from seeking help.
mm,
There is also the concern for privacy. So if I have a
mm.
problem and I want to speak up, the first thing is, am I sure that my information will be safe? Am I
Yes.
sure that people will not just, use me to make money online? They want to be sure
Mm,
that their information is safe. So privacy concern is a big thing, and I think it's even one of the very primary hindrances to help seeking behavior.
mm,
There is also, there's also the factor of access and affordability. So we understand that we need to seek help, but what do we seek help? From whom do we seek help?
mm,
So some people do not even know how to access help, and for those who know, there is the issue of affordability. Can I afford this professional? We do not have mental health insurance in Nigeria.
mm.
That's the thing. So it's not like our insurance packages cover these things and we say, oh, okay, if I need a therapist, my
I can
insurance
always
covers
get
it. There's
one.
nothing like
Mm,
that. So affordability too is a factor. I like to point this out. This might sound controversial, but yes, there is the gender roles
mm.
also. So you know that in Nigeria we are used to saying, oh, men should not cry or
Yes.
men shouldn't whine about their problems. So you just naturally see men not talk about whatever is going on with them because they believe that they should bottle it in. Now, if you flip the card, so say for instance, a woman who is dealing with major life changes, like okay, let me take a woman who has always been a career woman and for some reason maybe she got married and she has to situation might demand that she changes career path or anything. Chances are that mental health issues would come up with that
Mm,
major change. Now, gender role will play out in the sense that, oh, people will say, but you shouldn't feel bad about it because you're a woman, you're expected to do this thing.
mm.
Whereas this person desperately needs help. So gender role could also play a factor so why people don't seek help
All right.
when they should.
Okay, thank you very much, Udeme Bong Akwan. If you've just tuned in, this is the big question, and we're talking about breaking the silence on mental health wellness in today's world. And we have with us the school and mental health counselor, Udeme Bong Akwan. Now, just as we wrap up this conversation, I'll take you through on this. How can we encourage open conversations about mental health in our communities, in our workplaces, in our families? And I'm glad we're having this conversation on radio too.
Great. So the first thing we can encourage these conversations is just exactly what we are doing now, leading by
Mm,
example.
mm,
Just don't wait for people to do it. Be the one to do it. Be the
mm,
one to launch this conversation, whether in school, in the workplace, in religious places.
mm,
If you know that you've observed somebody who has been withdrawn over time, be the one to broach the subject. Oh, I've noticed that you have been isolated. Is there anything going on with you? Once you
mm,
do that, you create a safe space
mm,
for those kinds of persons.
mm.
You already know that, okay, this person is interested enough to
Want to help?
want to know what's going on with me.
Mm,
So you lead by example, you create safe spaces for people by all means. Another way to encourage these conversations on mental health is to avoid stigmatizing language. So if somebody comes to say, oh, I feel like I'm losing my mind, you don't just rush up and say, ah, are you going crazy? we've already stigmatized that person.
Mm.
So we can watch the use of our languages. We would encourage people to open up, listen to people, listen to people. The difference between somebody's good health, good mental health, and bad mental health may just be those of us around them who are kind enough to listen to them. For some people, they just need that listening ear. If I can just find somebody who listens to me without judging me, then I'll be fine. So listening ears, they go a long way.
All right.
And certainly, let's normalize mental health conversations in everyday life. So if you're a teacher, and you walk into school and your student talks about not feeling too well mentally, you normalize it, make it a normal part. Let the child understand that thing is not only peculiar to you. All of us, we feel that way at some point or the other. So everybody thinks that it's a normal thing. It's like somebody waking up to say, "Oh, I have malaria." Because it's a normal thing, we do not look at it as something strange.
Okay.
So it's the same way we should approach mental health conversations. Let's normalize it. Let's prioritize it in the workplace, especially. In the workplace, we always want people to bring out their A game.
Yeah.
So Monday to Friday, we are expecting people to talk out loud, to walk on heels, to carry their shoulders high. But once we prioritize mental health, we should give chances and understand that, hey, there are days that people will come into the workplace and they are not their best selves. Something happened and they need some time off. These are ways we encourage conversations around mental health.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Demabong Akwan, for joining us on this
You're
conversation today.
welcome.
As we conclude our exploration into the realm of mental wellness, it's clear that the journey towards breaking the silence of mental health is ongoing. So, by fostering open conversations like we're doing right now, debunking the misconceptions, prioritizing self care, and advocating for accessible support systems, we collectively can work towards a future where mental health is treated with the same importance as physical health. Special thanks to our guest, Udemobong Akwan, school and mental health counselor, and also to you for being part of the big question today. Special also thanks to our executive producer, Tom Okewale Shunaya. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation, Udeme. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to lending my voice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. And also to you as well. Continue to listen to Women Radio 91.7. I am Miracle Phillip. Good afternoon.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I don't wait for nobody. Keep it locked. I should have bought you flowers. Turn your radio up.
We are WFM 91.7.
To sponsor this program, call the number 0816 480 7613.
Josephine Ugu, a woman of integrity, an icon.